welcome to Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest family broadcasting station. Here's your host, Scott Meyer.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Around the Ozarks. I'm your host this morning, Scott Meyer, the general manager here at Midwest Family Broadcasting Group of radio stations. And now that the election is done, not that this is going to be a show simply about an elected official, but it is an opportunity because of all the political laws that we have to actually talk to a representative without having to give open time to everybody that's running for the office because he was reelected. But this morning's guest is Representative Lynn Morris of District 140 in the state of Missouri. And, the first question I've got to ask you, Lynn, is why does anybody ever want to be an elected official, especially someone like yourself that's been so successful in business?
Well, Scott, that's a good question. That's what my wife asked. And so, you know...
She must be a smart lady, too.
She is a smart lady. It's a tough job. It's a lot harder than people think, and I guess why I got into it is I'm like millions of people in this country. I was frustrated and disgusted and disappointed in the way the government functioned, and at my age, I just decided instead of complaining, I would try to do something about it. Talked to my wife and my kids. We brought everybody in together, and we talked about it. We prayed about it, and I decided to run. And after that, it's history.
Well, let's take a step back a little bit, Lynn, and let's talk a little bit about who you are and who your family is. You're the owner of Family Pharmacies, of which there are 4 locations.
Well, we have 25 locations.
Oh, 25 locations. Only 4 in the
25 locations in Southwest Missouri.
Okay,
they're all in Southwest Missouri.
Right, and you're in a business that is very competitive, to say the least. I mean, when you get the big box Walgreens and CVS's. How long has Family Pharmacy been out there doing what they're doing?
Well, we've been in business 40 years. We've started our 40th year in business. We started back in August 20th, 1977. I would consider us a dinosaur in this industry today. Unfortunately, most of the independent pharmacies are out of business, and that's a shame. That's really a shame. We are the largest independent family-owned pharmacy group in the state of Missouri, and we actually rank number 40 in the United States in total sales. So it's what I always tell people, it's a God-led miracle story. Started out with 12 prescriptions the first day my wife Janet and I did, and then 40 years later we're filling 1.5 million scripts a year, and so. We've done a lot of things wrong, a lot of things right. We've had a lot of good customer base, loyal customer base, a lot of great employees, and worked extremely hard, and we've had God's blessings.
Well, that's all of that I'm sure is true, but at the end of the day, it's still up to you and your wife. At what point did you have that eureka moment where you said, I want to stop doing whatever I'm doing, and we want to get into this business?
Well, I'm one of those probably strange ones that it doesn't happen that often, but I actually wanted to be a pharmacist from the 3rd grade. And I know most people don't. A lot of people today, I talk to young people all the time. I do a lot of speaking engagements to schools trying to figure out, motivate kids to accomplish things in life. I feel that people can accomplish whatever they want to, but they have to have a roadmap. They have to know what they're wanting to do before they can ever get it done. But I'm lucky. I was unusual. I had a 3rd grade school teacher right here in Springfield, Miss Keller, and Delaware School, and she gave us a little book, New York Life, Occupations, and we could read it. We could read it with our parents, and I chose, as a 3rd grader, wrote an essay that my mom framed in a little red sheaf tablet that I wanted to be a pharmacist from the 3rd grade on. And it was interesting because as I was growing up, my grandparents and different relatives would say, well, that's nice, but don't you want to be a doctor? Or don't you want to be a lawyer? And people would always say things like that.
Sure.
And I would have to say, I'm extremely happy with my profession and what I've done and how I've helped other people. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I don't want to be anything else.
Well, you're obviously a very spiritual guy. I mean, it must have been a calling.
I think it was. At the 3rd grade, I wouldn't have understood that. But no, I actually now think that was.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things that's happened in my life. I was coming back from a from a store. I worked all day down at Kimberly City, and I was the very first SMS basketball game before they became Missouri State. And I had tickets, season tickets, and I was going to meet 2 doctors. I never made it to the game that night because I hit the back of a semi-truck that was stopped on the highway, and they had to cut me out of the truck and put me in the hospital. So, when the highway patrolman saw my car, and I looked at my car later on, they said they'd never seen, he'd been a highway patrolman for 30 years. He was getting ready to retire, and he said he'd never seen an accident like that wouldn't have killed someone. And so, I think looking over my whole life, there's been lots of times when God intervened and had some part of my life. So just been extremely blessed.
There was a little bigger plan.
Yeah, I think it was. And, for a while, I didn't know what that was. So you use a shotgun approach. You try to do lots of things that are good, that would be pleasing, that would help people. And you hope that some of those things are what was God's plans. And I think even being in politics has been God's plan, because I think it's a calling. Not everybody's cut out to do it. I don't want to do it very long. Mm-hmm. And so, this will be my 3rd term, and I just do 1 term at a time. I don't make any plans for the 4th term or what I would do after that when I'm termed out. You just want to serve people every day, and we'll see what happens.
Getting back to your family for a minute, where'd you meet your wife?
Well, I met my wife at the professional building in Springfield when I got out of pharmacy school in 1972 and graduated. I was a night manager at the professional building. So if any of the listeners are my age, and at that time there was only 1 doctor's building. It's hard to imagine Springfield. But back then there was no doctor's clinics. Only 1 doctor's building in the entire city of Springfield, and that was the professional building on Cherry Street, Cherry and Kimbrough. And it was 4 stories, had 110 doctors, and that's every doctor in Springfield. No place else. And so I had a pretty big job. I was the night manager. I'd come in at 12. I would work the pharmacy counter from 12 to 8. We closed at 8. And there was a really nice gentleman, Thomas. He was a black gentleman that was the janitor, and he and I closed that place up every night. Mm-hmm. And it was a tremendous opportunity to do that with him.
That's where you met her.
That's where I met her.
And you've got
she worked for Lowe Dobler and Giffen, and I used to play a lot of tennis. And so Dr. Pete Dobler was a big tennis player. Loved to play tennis, and sometimes we would go. I'd get him out of his office and make Janet mad, but because she was trying to keep him on schedule. But we'd go play tennis.
Oh, I can appreciate that. I like to play tennis. I can appreciate that. My guest this morning is Representative Lynn Morris. He of District 140. In the State House here in Missouri. You mentioned you have a family as well. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about them for a minute.
Well, yeah, I'm extremely proud of my family. This has been a great opportunity this last 4 years while I'm away, 5 months a year, because between Janet, my wife, and then Mandy, who's our vice president of our company, and then Justin, who does all the IT, and we've got a very sophisticated, very, very good IT system in our company. I would compare it to any of the big chains that we have. And then Melissa runs our home medical division. So everyone has an extremely important part of the operation, but they don't overlap. And I think that's one of the successes that we've had, because I think in the 40 years that our family has run this business, I can only think of one time when we had a family encounter that you don't want to have. And so if you only have one in 40 years, I think we're doing pretty good. I've had a lot of friends that are mine that own family businesses, and they don't have that record.
Oh, there's no question about it. Now, the kids, did they come to you and say, Dad, we want to be part of this business? Or did Dad kind of coach them that way?
No, you know what? I think all of them left, went to college. 2 of them graduated with 1 degree or more. And only Melissa is the only one that hasn't graduated from college. But we're trying to get her to go back to nursing school. She has 3 small children still. But I think she will go back to college, too, because her mother, Janet's a nurse. And so, but no, they all left. and went to somewhere else because they thought I was too mean and too hard. But they've all come back, so I guess I wasn't as mean as they thought I was.
Your dad. Dads have to be mean and hard, don't we?
Somebody must have been meaner.
Well, that's true. That's true. They always find that out when they get out to the world.
That's right. So we didn't say anything. We thought it was a good thing for them to go out and check somebody else out, and then come back and check our family business out again.
Let's talk about just the nature of business today. I was reading something earlier today. I see the $15 an hour group is out banging the drum again, and I appreciate, I guess, where they're coming from. But as a small business owner here, that we are here at Midwest Family, we're always worried about every 2 weeks when we've got to make payroll, and you want to do right by as many people as you can. But you're in the same kind of situation that we are. Our business has changed and changes daily. The competition changes all the time, and certainly when you look at the Walmarts and the CVSs, and I mean on, and even the opportunities online where people can send for drugs now. What kinds of things do you face every day with your employees? I mean, I would think your margins are fairly tight.
Oh, our margins are going down every year. It's changed. When I started in 1977, and for the first 10 years, 90% of my volume was cash. And then over the years, it's come to now where 95% of my volume is driven by insurance companies, PBMs. So somebody else is telling me how much they're going to pay me, when I'm going to get paid, and what drugs I can cover. The patient has no choice. The pharmacist has no choice. The doctor has no choice. Unfortunately, we have allowed the insurance companies to control everything. And it's a sad thing because it really is not as good as back then when we could be competitive and we could have our own pricing strategies. It was fun having pricing strategies where certain groups got certain prices and certain drugs cost more than other drugs, but we tried to make sure it was. I was the first one back in 1977 that discounted prescriptions regardless of age. I used to work for companies that would discount prescriptions for seniors, or say they would. Some of them weren't as good as others, but I just didn't like that. I didn't like one group getting a discount when I thought young people should get a discount too. I thought, everybody always talks about fixed incomes for older people. Well, I am an older person now, and I understand that, but here's the deal. Younger people have fixed incomes too. Everybody has a fixed income until their next raise. And so everybody's in different boats at different times. So they're trying to buy their first home. It costs more to raise a family than if you're retired. So I understand everybody needs the best price. And so we were very successful in coming up with things that we've done for a long time. But now, see, that went out the window when PBM started telling us what they were going to pay us and what we had to collect.
Well, certainly in the name Family Pharmacy, that says a lot about who you are and who your family is and how much this means to you, because I can always see the passion in your eyes when you talk about this. We're going to break in a moment. When we come back, we're going to find out a little bit about what Lynn Morris wants to do in Jeff City on your behalf and find out more. You're listening to Around the Ozarks on Midwest Family Broadcasting radio stations.
Holidays can be stressful for families. To help ease that stress, here's a Triple P positive parenting tip.
Sometimes kids behave badly on purpose. It's one way to get your attention. You could be accidentally rewarding problem behavior. Research shows plenty of attention when they're behaving well means you'll get more of the behavior you like and less of what you don't like.
Small changes, big difference. See how Triple P positive parenting program is already helping Greene County parents. triplep-parenting.com/Ozarks.
Welcome back to Around the Ozarks on the Midwest Family Broadcasting Group of radio stations this fine Sunday morning. I'm your host, Scott Meyer, the general manager here at these great radio stations. And this morning, we, now that the election is over, are able to have one of our first political leaders from the area in and talk about his favorite subject, which are the folks in his district, which is 140 in the State House. And it's Lynn Morris, who's the Do you go by CEO of Family Pharmacy or president or just dad or what do we say?
You know what?
Big cheese? What?
I don't really. It doesn't really matter.
None of those things matter.
They don't really matter to me. I signed most of my notes to my kids as dad.
Okay.
If I think that some other employees are going to see it, it may be just Lynn but some of the notes go out as president of the company. That's what my title is. But I don't really worry about that.
Dad's probably a little tougher to live up to sometimes than president.
Sometimes it is.
When we met for the first time, Lynn, a few months ago, you were talking at the time. I was meeting you as Family Pharmacy president. But you immediately changed the conversation to the work that you're doing in Jefferson City on behalf of your district. And I asked you when we first started, why? What was the eureka moment for you to want to get into politics, especially when, you've got a huge company that you're responsible for and meeting payroll every couple of weeks. And you said you just wanted to do something rather than sit back and complain about something.
Right. I think that's important. I mean, I know it's not everybody can do that. I'm very fortunate because my family could run my business while I'm gone, and it's great practice for them. I don't second guess them. So from January through May, they make all the decisions. They let me know about it on Friday when I get back, and there's been a couple of times when I probably would have done something differently, but they'll never learn unless they do it themselves. And they don't need to be afraid of what they're going to do because then they're going to always be gun shy. Mm-hmm. But getting back into Jefferson City, I'm extremely excited, Scott. I tell you what, I really I called this race. I really thought that we would have a great opportunity with President Trump. I really thought he was going to win. Mm-hmm. I thought the people were going to come out and vote, and they did. And then in the state of Missouri, I'd prayed for a long time, even though I'm probably one of the guys that have had a great relationship with Governor Nixon. He and I are on the same floor. My office is right across from his office, and he's been extremely gracious to my family and to me and helped me get some bills signed early because I've worked very well with him and respected him. We don't agree on a lot of things, but we're very cordial, so I always got to sit with him and First Lady at dinner many times over at the governor's mansion. And so, in fact, a lot of the Democrats was always mad at me because I was treated better than they were. But so I had a great relationship. But that's how you if you want to succeed up in Jefferson City, you want to work with both parties. You want to have great relationships with several people from both parties, and you want to try to make sure that that they trust you and believe in you and what you're saying. So we've got a great opportunity with a governor, Republican governor. I wanted to work at least 1 2-year term under a Republican governor and see what we could do. Mm-hmm. So here's what I think. And I think the people in this state, because I don't just serve, Scott, District 140, Eastern Christian County. I basically think of my job as serving, I've got 25 stores in 9 different counties, and I kind of think about I'm serving everybody in those counties. Mm-hmm. I'm serving basically everybody in Southwest Missouri. So whatever decision I make will definitely affect Southwest Missouri, and it can affect the entire state. So that's how I kind of look at it. But we're definitely going to look at, right off the bat, right to work in this state. I'm not against unions, and my dad was a union person for 30 years. He thought the first 20 was really good. The last 10 wasn't as good. But we're going to look at right to work. We'll take a vote. The difference now is that we had to have 109 votes to override the governor. And we did that more times in his 8 years than all the other governors put together in the history of the state. So that's how many times that he got overridden, well over 100 times, and many, many times in the 4 years I've served so far. We won't have to do that. There will be virtually no override votes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what we'll do come September 13th, 2017, because we may not have a veto session. We absolutely may not have one. That would be very unusual. But we're going to have tort reform. We're going to have tax reform. We're going to have education reform. We've needed tort reform for probably the last 20 to 30, 40 years, but we've never been able to get it over the hump. Right to work's one of those things where we could always get 95 votes. now we only have to have 82 votes. Mm-hmm. So it would have passed. It would have passed 2 years ago if we would have had just simple majority. So there's 117 Republicans in the House, and there's 25 Republicans in the Senate. So there's 9 Democrats in the Senate, and there's 46 Democrats in the House. And so they really won't have any say-so in the control. What I like to do with the Democrats, they have good bills too. Mm-hmm. So they're good people. So we don't agree on everything, but we agree on some things. And so what I try to do is find bills that are really good bills that a Democrat has sponsored, but they can't get it out of committee. It's hard to get a bill out of committee if you're a Democrat, if you're the minority party. Someday the pendulum will swing, and it'll be just the opposite. But right now, every committee has 2-1, so there's 2 Republicans to 1 Democrat. So when you have 8 and 4, there's just no way they can get a bill out of committee. But I took a suicide prevention bill from Representative Otto out of St. Louis, and we're going to pass it this year. We're fine-tuned it so close that we'll get it passed this year, and that's a Democratic bill that he'll co-sponsor with me, but I'll be the sponsor, and we'll carry it through. Same way, another great lady from St. Louis, she's an attorney, Democrat, had a bill for senior citizens farmers market bill, so the senior citizens could get free fresh produce at farmers markets. So it's a win-win for seniors and farmers. 0 fiscal note in the state. 42 states have it. She tried 2 years in a row to get it out of committee. I heard about it, so I picked the bill up. I sponsored it, and we missed it by 1 vote last year in the Senate by a Republican that was mad that night and voted all 8 bills down. That's the irony of politics up in Jefferson City. There's no sure thing. And for some reason, this one individual killed all 8 bills that night because he was mad. But we're going to pass it this year. Mm-hmm. And every year that we have to repass a bill, refile a bill, we just make them better. We just make them better, and you just keep working on it, and we'll get it done, because that will be a great bill for people. And then I've got some great health care bills. We have bills that I try to file bills that help people, mm-hmm. And help small business. And because I'm in the health care business, a lot of them, Lynn, they're kind of tend to go toward health care, but they could be small business, they could be education. They could be anything. Insurance, we're wanting to take care of uninsured motorists. I get so tired of hearing my friends and myself getting our cars hit by uninsured motorists, and we think there's ways to remedy that problem too. So there's going to be lots of good bills that we can file.
My guest this morning is State Representative Lynn Morris from District 140. As a businessman and now as a politician, one of the things I could never get past, because I've had people ask me to think about getting into politics. In business, you have to make decisions, immediate decisions, and they're not always easy to make. In politics, it seems like decisions are never made. A lot of discussion, and typically, you're up against a lot of attorneys that run for office, and attorneys, obviously, there's no right or wrong in the law. Everything is, up for grabs in terms of interpretation. How do you get over that hump? I mean, do you come home at night and pull your hair out, or do you? How do you go from the business side of Lynn Morris to the political side?
Well, it is different. We do have to make decisions. It seems like we don't up in Jefferson City, but every time you push the button, either whether it be red or green, you're either voting for a bill or you're not voting for a bill. I actually pray before each bill that I vote for. And I study those bills at night. There's a few of us older guys that got elected that I'm not saying all the young guys go out and party, but they tend to stay out later at night than we do. So it's almost like we have a curfew by 9 o'clock. We're in our hotel room. But we spend a lot of time in the library and studying bills and things like that, doing some research. We take it very seriously. So eventually, you do have to vote. The first votes, when they're doing floor votes, and they're important, but you can disguise your vote. But eventually, there's a lot of people watching your vote, how you push that button, and it's one of those things where you never please everybody. There's always going to be one special interest group that's going to be happy with you, and there's going to be one or two that's mad. But what you have to do at the end of the day is make sure that you're voting your conscience and you're really studying the bill. So you're a student of the bill. You know information about that bill that sometimes, unfortunately, the constituents don't know, and then you have to vote what you think is best for your district.
What have you learned now that you've done? This is your third session,
starting my
right?
third term.
Third term. What would you say is probably the biggest thing that you've come away with so far that you didn't expect when you went there the first time?
Well, I think the thing that is probably the most disappointing to me that I've learned is the fact that while we are one of 10 states that has a balanced budget, and that is a tremendous thing that we can't overspend like the federal government does and like most of the states do in our country. We are blessed because we have to have a balanced budget. We can't spend more than we take in. However, even though our government is so much better organized and more efficient than the federal government, it's still not anywhere near as good as it could be. So you and I are businessmen, Scott, so you and I look at it differently. Mm-hmm. So when I go up there, I'm thinking if I could just get our state government to act and work more like a business that I've been used to, because I was a COO at Columbia HCA Hospital for 3 years. So I was number 2 person at a hospital, and I was pretty well ran that hospital, and they don't run that like up there in Jefferson City. So if I could get them, and that's what we're trying to do in small little baby steps, we're trying to make our state government to be more efficient, where they don't waste as much money. We waste a lot of money up in Jefferson City. We do a lot of great things. We do a lot of good things, but we also do some things that we could improve on, and that's where I think I want to concentrate. I want to try to concentrate these next 2 years on even making our state better and more efficient.
We're just about to wrap up Shoebox for Soldiers, something that's really important to you and your family pharmacy group of stores. Lynn, can you tell us a little bit about it? You said you might extend it now?
Well, yes, Scott. I tell you what, our first wrap up is this Saturday at our warehouse, but if we're not going to turn packages away. So if they want to bring in packages to any family pharmacy store or to the radio station next week, we'll still make sure that they get sent. We just want to make sure that every person in Southwest Missouri that's deployed receives a package. And we're so excited to continue to do this. It means a lot to people.
A couple of quick questions, quick answers.
Sure.
Fidel Castro.
Well, Jan and I were fortunate. We got to go to Cuba last October with the Missouri Chamber, and there was some representatives and senators and lobbyists and different people that got to go. We were very fortunate to get to go. It was interesting because they showed us what they wanted to show us. But I did individually get to talk to a few people on the side, and they were cautious about what they were saying. But these young kids that are protesting today and things like that, yeah, they have free education, but they don't get free choice of occupation. Cuba will tell you exactly what you will be. And a cigar, if you're really good at rolling cigars, you can actually make more money than a doctor in Cuba. So they place it on the value of how much money you can bring in, I guess, compared to lives that you're saving. So that's what I'd say. I think Fidel Castro didn't do his people any good things at all, and I don't really see it getting better with his brother because he's been in control for quite some time. I feel sorry for the people. I feel sorry for those people because they seem to be really good people, and the people who have gone to Miami that's been able to escape, they know, and they know what it's like, and they wish it would be better.
Donald Trump is president. First choice?
Well, no, he was my fourth choice out of 14 people, but I think he's going to do a great job. I'm excited to see a businessman. This is the first time we've really had a businessman in office like that. I think if people will leave him alone and give him a chance and let him see what he can do, I think he's picking some great choices to be in his cabinet and leadership team. I'm excited. One thing, people ask me all the time, would you rather have taxes or would you rather have regulations eliminated? From a business standpoint, I think I'd rather have regulations eliminated. I'd like to have my taxes reduced, but I'd really like to have regulations reduced, because regulations cost you money too, and they make you very inefficient. And I really believe that's what we're going to do with Governor Greitens in our state. I believe that's what we're going to do with President Trump, is that we're going to really look and start to cut all these regulations that have strangled business throughout the years. And we've actually slowly but surely the last 30 years, we've actually had just too many regulations. I believe that this will be 4 years of great growth in this country.
One word answer: are we going to see a U.S. Senate or U.S. House run for Lynn Morris?
No, I think, Scott, I've aged out. I think I've aged out. If I'd have started a little bit earlier, I might have, but I don't think so.
Janet's going to keep you home.
I think I need to stay home and help my county.
I totally get it. Our guest this morning has been Lynn Morris. We want to congratulate him on a big win. When we first met a little while ago, Lynn said he was going to canvass the entire district, and I said, I don't know why. I think you won last time by, 70% or something? 80%, but you said because the people matter and you care, and it's really fun to hear that from someone in politics these days, regardless of the side of the aisle. As always, I want to thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you for joining us for Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest Family Broadcasting Station. Listen again next Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Find this and all other segments of Around the Ozarks at mwfmarketing.fm.